Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Musgrove, joined by our Newcastle United editor, Allan Stokes. It's the 23rd of December and we are approaching Christmas Eve. We're approaching Christmas Day. Excited, Allan?
Yeah, very much so. Got to have a couple of days break before the football returns.
Indeed. Obviously, Newcastle face Leicester on Boxing Day, so we'll have a bit of a chat, a bit of a preview, a bit of a look ahead to that game. Also, look at that EFL Cup quarter-final draw, which of course is against Leicester, which is going to be really interesting. In fact, that whole week in January could be season-defining, really, and we'll get on to that. We're also going to have a bit of a quiz at the end, so you guys watching live can join in the comments. We'll reveal what the quiz is. It's going to be a difficult one, I think. We've been practicing this week Newcastle United trivia. We've been doing all right, but I think this one, just to embarrass ourselves, we've probably picked the hardest one.
I think we're going to need some help from the people in the comments, aren't we, if we're going to go through it, but I'm sure it'll be all right.
So stick with us to the end of the episode and you can help us out, and hopefully we've got 15 minutes to answer all these questions, and hopefully we can do it in double quick time. But as we said, plenty to talk about before we get on to that. I'll just do some quick homework before we get started. So if you're on the podcast, please remember to like and follow the podcast and leave us a quick rating and review. If you're watching live on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to come along to our live Newcastle United event on the 26th of January, you need to be quick because there's only about 19 tickets left. I'll pop the link to where you can get your tickets into the comments, into the podcast description as well. It's free entry, but you do need a ticket to come along. It'll be me, Aaron, Kieran, and we've also got, who else? We've got Luke Edwards. He'll knock us if I've forgotten his name there. Luke Edwards and BBC Radio Newcastle's Matthew Raisbeck. So a brilliant panel right in the middle of the January window as well. So it's going to be plenty to talk about. Like I say, free entry, but you will need a ticket to get involved. Now, Aaron, let's talk about this EFL Cup quarter-final against Leicester City. I guess out of all the teams that were left in the draw, probably besides Charlton, is this the best draw for Newcastle?
I think it's certainly favourable. I think it's one that Eddie Howe will no doubt be taken seriously, but I think it gives Newcastle a good enough chance to qualify. I think the most important thing was that Howe wanted a home draw. He's got that. I think the worst thing for him would have been having to go away to a Premier League team. So, yeah, look, I think Leicester not to be underestimated at all. Yes, they've had a bad start to the season, but they're starting to slowly pick up. Got some fantastic players that can really do some damage. So you'd be confident going into it. I think we will. I think obviously Sunday will tell us a bit more about what we need to know about Leicester and how they line up and how they've sort of reacted to the break, just as Newcastle have. But I think I think on the whole, it's a good draw.
I think Nottingham Forest is probably the only other side that maybe Newcastle fans would have taken, obviously besides Charlton, because you've still got some big hitters within the mix. But as I said on the last podcast with John Gibson, I don't think you looked at the teams that were in the mix and really fear anybody. Yes, Man City, big team. But let's be honest, if you're going to win this trophy, you're going to have to beat the best at some point. So why not do it in the quarterfinal? But they've got a decent enough draw with Leicester. But given how Leicester have turned things around in the league, you know, their next two games, obviously one's against Newcastle and whoever they face on New Year's Eve, that could maybe change the way they look at this quarterfinal. Because if they fall back down the league, then maybe the priority shifts a little bit to trying to, you know, prioritise getting back up the table rather than getting to Wembley.
Yeah, and look, likewise, it works the other way. Should Newcastle somehow lose to Leicester and Leeds and struggle against Arsenal and even Sheffield Wednesday, all of a sudden that tie against a Premier League team, yes, it's at home, but it comes a bit more daunting if Newcastle can't keep up this form. I think they will keep up the form, given what we've seen against Vallecano and what we saw in flashes against Bournemouth. But it's going to be interesting this week. You've already touched on it. It does feel sort of season-defining over the festive period because Eddie Howe's loved to downplay this break. He said we knew it was coming. We're not going to let it affect us, but they were on such a roll before the World Cup. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they pick it up on Boxing Day when Premier League football is finally back.
I mean, that run of games is quite something. You know, you have Leicester on Boxing Day, Leeds on New Year's Eve, then you face Arsenal, then you have Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup, then you have Leicester in the EFL Cup, and then you have Fulham And that is really going to test the depth of this Newcastle United squad.
100%. I think Sunday, as we say, will be a test. I think there'll be a lot of leggy players who are still trying to refine that fitness. Leeds, not an easy task. Jesse Marsch have pulled off some big scalps this season, notably Liverpool. Arsenal's the big one for me because, Arsenal have overachieved, I think, this season, to be 7 points ahead of Newcastle. There's a lot of pressure on them to try and keep up that momentum. That is a big barometer of how far Newcastle have came and how far they've still got to go when they face them after New Year, because if they get blown out the water by Arteta's team, you suddenly, the sort of brakes get put on a bit from how we've all been feeling the last couple of weeks, saying that Newcastle can finish in the top 4 and whatever. So that's the big one for me. Then you've obviously got 2 real chances to progress in the cup. So it's about balancing the league and the cups, I think.
Quite something if they beat Arsenal, though, wouldn't it? Because plenty of people might start dreaming about more than just the Champions League place.
Yeah, it would be a huge statement, and I think we've already had it this season in a sense. Nearly beating City was quite a big statement. Beating Chelsea quite comfortably before the break was a big statement. Even the performance at Liverpool, I know they came away with nothing, but to lose it in that manner at the end shows that how good they've been this season. To go down there, to beat Arsenal, to close that gap, it would, I think, any hope that me and you have got of people keeping their feet on the ground, I think that goes out the window if they do beat Arsenal in the new year.
Yeah, well, that's to come. We, of course, will have plenty of content and coverage of that game. But as we said, Leicester is the first game of this run of fixtures on Boxing Day. Everyone loves a good old Boxing Day clash. Newcastle always seem to somehow be away, though, which is well, it just seems they always have to travel somewhere, and the fans have sold out that end down at the King Power. Brilliant support. And are you backing Newcastle to come back to Tyneside with all 3 points?
I think it's hard to back against them at the minute. I know there's been a break, and essentially this game will probably have a bit of a pre-season feel to it. But I think, given the manner of their performances across the season, given that they've only lost once at Liverpool in such a devastating fashion, I think you'd be a fool to bet against them. And yes, Leicester have improved compared to the start of the season. Rodgers seems to have sort of saved himself after some early sort of doubts about his future. You're looking at the press conference that he's done today, and obviously James Maddison's a doubt. That would be a huge boost for them. I think you've got to be confident, even though they're on the road, that they're going to come back with 3 points at the minute.
Yeah, James Maddison, bit of a knee issue. Brendan Rodgers said that they'll give it every chance that he can be involved. And even though they beat MK Dons without him in the League Cup, he is a talisman. He is the one who can make things happen. In many ways, he's a little bit like Allan Saint-Maximin in the Newcastle United squad before all these other big name players arrived. Of course, they have got other talented players. Tielemans, Vardy can still do a job. They are a threatening side, even without Maddison. But of course, Maddison just takes it up a level.
Yeah, 100%. They've got some fantastic players. Tielemans is a player that I'm sure will, be on many transfer radars in January again. Patson Daka is fantastic when he plays. Harvey Barnes is another really, really talented player. So even without Maddison, they're a fantastic side. We know what they can do. But as me and you have touched on in this podcast the last couple of months, Maddison this season just seems to have gone to another level. And you can see why so many teams, including Newcastle, were after him in the summer, because there's not many number 10s in the league that do it better than Maddison. So huge boost for Newcastle if he's out on Boxing Day. And it would be a huge boost for Newcastle if he's playing his first game for Newcastle against Leicester in the Carabao Cup next month.
A lot of people made that joke when the draw was made. But, one of our colleagues who covers Leicester down the Midlands said he feels rather that with Leicester still within the safety battle, yes, they've picked up form, but, make no bones about it, they've still got a job to do to secure their Premier League status. It's unlikely that Maddison will be sold in January.
Yeah, look, January's a much harder window, regardless of the situation clubs find themselves in. I think, as you say, Leicester are going to be a lot more reluctant to sell in January, given this, the position they find themselves in. And they were really, really reluctant to sell him in the summer. So it's how much Newcastle United want to go for him in January. Do they really need him in January? Probably not. It would be a fantastic signing, but it's not as if it's the end of the world if they don't get him. And it could just be a case that they wait until the summer if they can get an agreement done early. So, look, I think he's definitely one on the radar, and it would be fantastic if they signed him. I'm just not sure how likely it is that Leicester are going to be able to, really, really, be open to selling them.
I have a few comments here from those watching live. JW Mousen says he would have rather Southampton, Wolves or Forest. To be fair, I forgot at least two of them sides were actually still in draw. So there you go. That's my bad research. But yeah, I mean, you would have taken Southampton, Wolves. I mean, Forest is an interesting one because I feel like, they're just going to throw caution to the wind and just kind of go for it. Wolves, the first win isn't under the new manager. Southampton, I saw it indifferent. And I, in many ways, actually, I think Leicester, you can throw in with them three as a team. You don't really know which one's going to turn up. Mm-hmm. And then he also follows up by saying Harvey Barnes is a quality player. We've got Nick Lumley saying the last 5 games in the Premier League have been hard. No game is easy in the league. We have to take it one game at a time, but we probably are the hardest team to face in the Premier League right now. Our defence is like a brick wall. Nicky, I think you're spot on. I think nearly everyone watching this, listening to this will agree with you. Watch it, 11 goals conceded this season, 5 clean sheets in a row at home. The defence, the improvement in the defence, given the short space of time, the relative short space of time that defence has been playing together, and how long Eddie Howe's been in charge, just over a year, is unbelievable. And we'll hear from Brendan Rodgers in a moment, and he's full of praise for Newcastle's defence and the additions they've made. But to be sitting here and saying Newcastle have only conceded 11 goals so far this season, it's another mind-blowing stat and another indicator of just how well Eddie Howe and his staff are doing.
I would agree with Nicky's comment. I think they are probably the toughest team in the league to face at the minute. I think they're the most consistent so far. Yes, they're 7 points off the top, but I think when you look at the results they've picked up, and as you've said, all those stats you've mentioned about the unbeaten runs, the clean sheets, I don't think you could say that there's an opponent that's probably feared. Maybe Manchester City, but I mean that just shows that they're even if they're in the same bracket as them, how far they've come in Eddie Howe. So yeah, look, this is the thing. They've had a fantastic start to the season. Now it's all about making sure that they don't lose this momentum because of the break.
To coin a phrase, asks, how is the drilling? Yes, thankfully, there is no drilling. Regular listeners of the podcast or viewers of the live stream will know we've had a bit of issue with a bit of external noise, but thankfully today, it's just me, Aaron, and my friendly penguin jumper. Sorry, that's me trying to be funny and karma coming together. But yeah, no drilling today, thankfully. Derek Allan Platten asking, would you swap? Seeing that, someone's just had the loudest beep of a horn there outside.
We've jinxed it.
Maybe it was Santa and his sleigh. Derek Allan Platten asks, would you swap Maxi for Madison?
Oh,
big question.
That is a cracking question from Derek. No, I don't think so. I think, look, Maxi's not in the team at the minute, and as I say on this podcast a lot, football fans are very short term in their nature, and Madison's the hot topic of the moment. But I think Maxi complements this team very well when he's fit. I think he offers something a bit different to Madison in terms of what he can do with the ball at his feet and dribbling. So I don't think so. That's a really, really good question.
Would you bring Allan Saint-Maximin into the starting 11 to face Leicester?
I think if he's fit, I'd like to see him back from the start because, yes, as we touched on earlier in the week,
hasn't he? He's got to be fit. He came off the bench in the League Cup against Bournemouth. He's been on the bench in previous games. Is it a case do you think he's not been match fit, or do you think he's just not getting into that starting 11 because everyone else is performing so well?
I think it's a bit of both. I think we know he had that setback when he was trying to initially come back from the injury. I think he's been working on his fitness in Saudi, and obviously there was a little niggle against Vallecano. It's really, really tough because you don't want to disrupt this winning team, and Joelinton's been doing fantastic out on the left, as we touched on Monday. But as I said then, I think Maxi in that starting 11 is a must because when he's fit and firing, and I mean, I was watching a clip on Twitter this morning of him against Manchester City just a matter of months ago, and sort of forget how frightening he was that day. And that was only a couple of months ago. If he can refine that form, I think he slots straight back into that team. Joe Linton drops in deep. And I think then you've got the decision to make as to which midfielder drops out.
We've had this conversation plenty of times over the last few weeks on the podcast about Maxi. And the answer always seems to be, and those on Twitter, I've seen it as well, and in the comments, always seems to be, remember how terrified Kyle Walker was against Allan Saint-Maximin, which is true. But how many other times against top teams, and I'm top teams, you know, like Liverpool, Arsenal, can you say that? And now some people listening might say that's very critical, but Saint-Maximin's biggest issue is consistency. And that's why he can't get into the side, because Miggy has found consistency. Sean Longstaff, Joe Willock, Bruno are all consistent. And that's why it's not as easy as bringing Saint-Maximin, moving Joe Linton into the centre, because Eddie Howe doesn't like changing winning side. And who do you drop?
But you know what it is? Look, Maxi himself made a very good point after Bournemouth, and our colleague Lee Ryder managed to grab a chat with him after that game. And Maxi said, look, it's frustrating that I'm not starting, but Joe Linton deserves to start. Willock deserves to start. These players that are in the team above me really do deserve to start. So that's a really good attitude from him, because remember when he came from Nice and there was loads of talk about his attitude and what he's like on the training pitch. Actually, I think we've seen him mature a lot. And I think that answer that he gave Lee when he spoke to him the other night really spoke volumes of actually he is a team player now. That will no doubtly be because of what Eddie Howe's instilled in him in the last couple of months. And look, it might be the case that he has to just take a little bit of a bit part role now, which will be a shock to the system, given that under Bruce he was the main man. The tactic was give it a Maxi and see what can happen. So he now has a really, really important 6 months ahead of him to try and, one, get back in that team, two, show that he has a future, or three, shows that he actually is good enough to be linked with Chelsea and Tottenham and City, as he so often has been. So a big couple of months for Maxi, I think, to get back in this side.
To coin a phrase, says you prefer Madison to thread Maxi through on goal. That's not a bad shout. He also says no player walks straight back into the side, and Maxi will work his way back into it like everybody else. And Derek asks, who do you honestly think would give the team the most over 38 games, Maxi or Madison? I would say Madison.
Same.
Because I think he's more consistent. It's that word again, consistency. I think he's more consistent. There's no doubt that Saint-Maximin, when he's running at players, is absolutely terrifying, but it just doesn't happen enough for me, over a 38-game season, which is unfortunate. But it's going to be so interesting to see if he can rise to the challenge. He seems like he's up for the battle. He's going to want to be part of this journey. He said he wanted better players around him. I'm not sure he expected it to happen this quickly and to find himself out of the side. But as you say, he seems to have reacted really well. But you didn't give us an answer, did you? Is he starting on Boxing Day?
I don't think he starts, no. I think Eddie Howe will keep the same team from Bournemouth for Leicester. I think it was a really big statement on Tuesday night to go with all 5 World Cup players and actually to go pretty much full strength in terms of form. It was pretty much the team we saw directly before the World Cup break. So I think you'll stick with that team as long as everyone has came through unscathed.
But that's not a bad diet to have.
No,
if
look,
Leeds, you need to make a change,
exactly.
And it's at maximum.
And this is what we've been talking about for months. If Newcastle United want to go to the next level, they need to have strength and depth. And if you're all of a sudden calling on Allan Saint-Maximin off the bench, there's not many better sort of impact players off the bench to have than him.
No, 100% right. Let me play a clip from Brendan Rodgers' press conference today where he's very, very complimentary about Newcastle United.
You're getting ready to face a Newcastle side that are currently third in the Premier League table. What have you made to them this season?
Yeah, no, they've done made a great start to the season. No, they're a very good side. They've got good physicality in the team and good quality. I think Eddie's done a fantastic job since he's gone in there. So if you look on the field, Newcastle, they've signed players that have really improved the squad and the dynamic of the team. They've had talented players in there, but the players they brought into the back line in particular and goalkeeper really gives them, that real dominance in the back line, and that gives the base for the rest of the team to work. So Eddie's done a fantastic job there and with those players. And I think, I look at Newcastle and I think off the field as well. You bring in Dan Ashworth, who's a top operator in the game as a sporting director. Darren Eales was another guy that has come into the background and into an executive role, and he's outstanding at his work. And of course, you then have the supporters of Newcastle, which give a great intensity to the game. So I think overall they're trying to build something there, do it the right way, implement a style of football that's exciting, aggressive, and like I say, on and off the field, I think they're only going to improve and get better. So yeah, it's a really good game for us.
So I've got to be honest, when I first watched that video, all I could think about was he's definitely talking up Newcastle. Is he potentially angling for a job should Eddie Howe, leave for whatever reason?
I mean, I think we'll see a lot of that over the next couple of months, managers that are maybe wanting a stab at the job in the future. But yeah, look, very complimentary, and maybe there's a little hidden agenda there.
I mean, everything he said was spot on. You don't often hear people actually praising the defence. It's often much more about Bruno, about how Almiron's found the form. So refreshing in a sense to hear an opposition manager, Premier League manager, talk about the defence and how good it is, and that being the main part of his praise for Newcastle.
Yeah, as you say, over the years, it's always been about Maxi, and even, sort of at the start of this year, it was all about Bruno. So good to see that the defence is finally getting the credit it deserves. And look, I mean, I think they have people stand up and take note the last couple of months, especially, since the arrival of Botman and obviously Nick Pope's fantastic clean sheet stats. So, yeah, no surprise to see that managers are actually clocking onto it now.
Yeah, and then the praise for Dan Ashworth, for Darren Eales. And we've said this, quite a few times, that this off the field, the most refreshing thing about Newcastle United is that they are getting people in those positions that have experience, proven track records. There's a team there, Peter Silverstone as well. There's a team there doing good things. There's not just one man trying to piece it all together. There's a strong, experienced team there, and that can only be beneficial for Newcastle United. And
it's clear that obviously what the stuff that they're building behind the scenes, the introduction of Eales and Silverstone, as you've mentioned, are making other teams stand up and take note. I mean,
getting noticed.
How many other times have you ever heard? Well, I mean, you've probably never heard it for Newcastle for 20 years, but an opposition manager actually coming out and praising 2 or 3 additions they've made off the pitch. It does go to show that really in terms of the first 14 months of ownership, they've got a lot of things right, both on and off the pitch. So yeah, no surprise to see Roger maybe angling for a future stint up here.
I guess the irony is that before the takeover, and even probably in the months after the takeover, many people, including myself as a fan, held up Leicester as the example of where we want to aim to be. The top class training ground, the investment in the playing staff, the want and desire to not just crash the top 4, but be a permanent fixture there. Of course, things haven't quite worked out how Brendan Rodgers would have liked it. He's slowly getting them back onto form. And it's just ironic that in such a short space of time, the tables have turned, really. And it's Newcastle now that is maybe for teams, including Leicester, looking like the one that they hold up and say, okay, that's the approach that we've got to take if we want to be a successful Premier League side.
Leicester for years were that benchmark, weren't they? Your West Hams, your Evertons, your Newcastles, your Southamptons all used to look and say, well, if Leicester can go and win the league, if Leicester can go and finish in the Champions League and the Europa League in back-to-back seasons, then this is what we need to be achieving. I mean, look, for all those years we had Mike Ashley and everyone was obviously doom and gloom. You look down the road at Leicester, you had passionate owners who aren't from the region. They're from a very different culture in Thailand. They've came in very attentive with the supporters, very, very good at backing their manager, very, very good at scouting, young, hungry players, Mahrez, Kante, Tielemans. They really were sort of the model of the type of football club you want to be. And it now goes to show that, these things can change so quickly in football. Now, I think if you look at a lot of teams, Southampton's, West Ham's, Everton's, they're saying now Newcastle are the benchmark. Maybe it's a bit different because of the ownership, but Newcastle are now in that conversation that Leicester used to be in, 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm. Interesting. Look back to last year when Newcastle played Leicester down at the King Power. It was, I think, December the 12th. They were thumped 4-0. And it's just switched around again. This time around, Newcastle come into this game as favourites, you would say, not fearing a thumping off Leicester. And I've actually done a piece because on this day, so the 23rd here of December 2018, Newcastle had a 0-0 draw with Fulham, and it was one of the worst games I think I've ever seen. And people listening and watching might remember Rafa Benitez came out afterwards and said it's going to take a miracle to stay up. He was not happy with the performance, and it was clearly a public kind of dig at Mike Ashley, trying to provoke him into strengthening the squad ahead of in January. But Newcastle were 5 points off the drop zone at that point. It just seemed, in hindsight, it seemed a very strange comment. And I then look ahead to that Leicester game under Eddie Howe. Newcastle were 19th. They were 3 points from safety, just being thumped 4-0. Only had one win on the board. And Eddie Howe was positive. He talked about how they're getting to where he wants them to be. There was no, we're not good enough. There was no, we need reinforcements. Now, of course, the situation's very different. Eddie Howe was probably well aware there was going to be funds to come in January. Ambitious owners who didn't want, obviously, Newcastle to go down. Bit different under Mike Ashley. He was kind of just happy to do the bare minimum. It kind of called with me about how different Rafa Benitez's approach was to Eddie Howe. And bearing in mind as well, I think about 5 players in that defeat or that draw with Fulham are still on the books today at Newcastle. And I think one of the key elements of what I'm trying to get to is that Eddie Howe is very much we're in this together. He thinks about what he's trying to say. And I'm not sure if Benitez didn't, but it just seemed a very strange comment and probably didn't please too many people when he said that, especially in the dressing room.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe was a bit more positive. He wasn't throwing anyone under the bus, so to speak.
Well, we go back to it. Me and you have spoken about both on the pod and off the pod in recent months about what Benitez was like when they signed Manquillo and how, yes, he had to sort of prove his point to Mike Ashley, but Manquillo signs and he goes, well, look, we've only brought him in because we didn't have the budget to get someone better. You would never hear that under Eddie Howe, whether it was under Ashley or these owners. And I mean, for a piece that I'm writing, I happened to just be looking back at Eddie Howe's comments this time 12 months ago as well. And there's an interview that he gave a couple of days before Christmas when, as you say, Newcastle were 19th, really struggling. And his words were, actually, we've got enough quality in this squad to stay up. There was never any, well, it'll be a miracle if we stay up, blah, blah. From minute one that he got this job, it was always positive. We're going to stay up. We've got the talent to do it. I mean, Matt Ritchie even said in the programme notes this week before Bournemouth, Eddie Howe came in and on the first day he said, I want to win a cup. And I mean, this is for a manager that's inheriting a team staring relegation in the face. So for all Eddie Howe's positives of what he's done on the pitch, the feeling of positivity that he's got seen with the fan base cannot be underestimated at all.
It's amazing because I think it's about 11 or so players that were involved in that fixture last season against Leicester are still here at the club, so his greatest asset in many ways, apart from the tactical skills he's got, it's just instilling confidence into a team. Because they're professional footballers, they're clearly got something about them. It's just boosting them enough to say, well, actually, yes, you are good enough. You might not be Messi, but believe me, you're good enough to be a Premier League footballer and you can get us out of this mess.
I mean, look what he's done with Emil Kraft. I mean, he turned Emil Kraft into Cafu. He's turned Miggy into Ronaldo. He's done all these things with players that Bruce and Benitez would never get a tune out of. And look, even from our point of view as journalists, you go into a press conference with him, he's very, very polite. He's very media savvy and he knows what he can and can't say. But I mean,
but so was Rafa Benitez. Rafa Benitez was incredibly savvy, and he in most things he said, you always knew there was he said it for a reason, and you knew why he said those comments against Fulham, and for the majority of the time, they was aimed at Mike Ashley, and that's kind of where it stopped. You wouldn't think the players got too upset at them. It was just that one kind of incident against Fulham where you just go, what? Like when you read those comments, you're right. You'd never hear that from Eddie Howe. Every time he's asked about a player, there's always, yeah, he's got a good attitude, or he's got, he's got a good fitness, stamina, whatever. Every single player, he just talks up and talks up. Now, behind the scenes, he might be a bit more brutal, but that's how it should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and definitely. And I mean, it's something that I noticed from the very start, and that's when we ask him a question about Bruno and how good Bruno is. He always makes sure to mention how good Shelby is and how good Longstaff is, because he doesn't want to leave any out in that position. He never wants to put too much praise, and he wants that group to be as close as possible in terms of ability, doesn't he? That's why in previous windows we've seen that he hasn't tried to bring in superstars, because he wants this fantastic mentality among the group to stay as it is for as long as it possibly can, until you go, actually, Newcastle need to probably spend a bit more.
Do you think it's another sign of just how well Eddie Howe has done, because he didn't just have to pick up the players from working under Steve Bruce, who was a little bit similar to Rafa Benitez in terms of, I'm working with what I've got here. I haven't got world-class players. And Rafa Benitez, again, was a little bit downtrodden when it came to it, i.e. those Fulham quotes about, this team isn't that good. These players aren't that good. So he's had, 4-5 seasons of especially for the 11 or 12 that are still here, of you're not that good.
Yeah, and I think what it did highlight was, I mean, we all knew it was nonsense when Steve Bruce said it at the time, but when Bruce used to come out and say, this is the only way we can play, we can't play free-flowing attacking football with the squad. Well, actually, Steve, you could have if you had the capabilities, because, yes, look, Howe's had very good attacking players brought into the side for him, but a lot of those players in attack, Miggy, Wilson, Willock, were all Steve Bruce players, and they were consistently told, we can't play any other way than what we're playing now, which was backs to the wall, try and spring a counter.
But very similar to how, and I know Benitez didn't have all those players, but
Benitez, you felt there was more of a plan. Yes, they were going to sit deep. Yes, it wasn't entertaining to watch, but actually sometimes you knew there was a very, very good and thought-out counter-attacking plan, and sometimes you would actually gain some really big scalps against Chelsea and Arsenal and Manchester United, especially at St James's. Whereas under Bruce, you thought it's backs to the walls, but really, when we get the ball, you give it to Maxi and you see what he can do. Whereas I feel like under Benitez, it was a lot more thought out, even though they're both defensive managers. So look, yeah, Howe deserves massive credit for the results, but also the manner in which he's got this team playing now, which is they can beat anybody.
Can't be honest, when Newcastle were thumped 4-0 by Leicester last year, I thought that was it. I thought it was curtains.
I think everybody did. I think, yes, Howe's had a fantastic year, but really his start to life at Newcastle was a bit tricky, and took a while to get his first win before Burnley. Then you had that period over Christmas where thumped off Leicester, struggled at City, got beat at Cambridge, and actually we were looking at that Cambridge game and thinking it really hasn't gone to plan. And then obviously Leeds away turned everything around and has just transformed the club. But I think a lot of people this time last year were really thinking, even though Howe's came in, said all the right things, I think they were still thinking it was going to be a big ask to stay in the league.
But again, that's just kind of another, applause to Eddie Howe and his staff for the way they handled that situation, where they are now. I mean, Newcastle beat Leicester on Boxing Day. They could potentially go up with Manchester City, couldn't they? So it's unbelievable when you look at the league table and you compare it this time last year to now, and long may it continue. We're going to do the quiz now. So for those watching live, please join in, because I'm not sure now we're not going to be able to complete this. So I'm going to share the screen. For those listening on the podcast later, just join in and see if we can do it. So let me just share the screen.
I think there's going to be a lot of people listening to this later screaming into their phones if we're struggling.
So
but
does this work? Right. So hopefully hopefully there we go. Right. So I'm back on the mic now. So this is, what is it? It's Newcastle players in World Cups since 1990. So we have 16 minutes. And what I'll do is, shall we start?
Yeah, let's start. Let's go for it.
A little bit of a Christmas quiz. Right. So where it goes up to 2010 then, does it?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So let's start with Alan Shearer. Nice, easy one to begin with. I'll get the comments up, see if we can get any help. There we go. Right. Aspria, he's got to be Columbia 94. So all right. So the players come in more. Right. Okay. So it's each tournament. Scotland. Goodness me, we're going to be rubbish at this, aren't we?
What year? 1990.
Well, 98's got to be Gavage. I'm assuming they've counted that, but even they didn't move.
Yeah.
Right. 1990. There's a lot of England players in 1990. Eh?
Gascoigne, was he still at Newcastle?
He was not in 1990. But the reason must be.
Gascoigne's in there, 90.
But he moved. He left. They left Newcastle well before 1990. It must be any Newcastle player to have played at Newcastle, not when they were capped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it makes it a little bit easier then. So Philip Albert's 94 Belgium then. Look at that. Ireland. Shea Given would have played one. Right, to Ireland. Actually, that makes it a little bit harder, doesn't it? Netherlands. Holland players. Argentina. Gutierrez was definitely one.
Yeah. Chio is going to be that Ivory Coast one above them.
Right, okay. Let's just have a little dive in the comments then and see if we've got any help here. Craig Moore, right?
Fantastic shout.
Look at that, fantastic, right? Oh, Michael Owen.
Yeah.
We've got 14 minutes left here. Trying to get Shaka Hislop. There we go.
Lots of Cameroon ones.
Demba before. Well, he's Senegal, sorry, isn't he? Jeremy Senegal.
Yeah.
There we go. Cameroon, sorry. Denmark's Lovenkrantz potentially must have played. Nice. Beardsley Waddle. We'll get the 90s out of the way first. I'm going to test your spelling here, Beardsley.
I've already put it in.
Oh, you've put him in. You've put him in. Spain 2002. Spanish player.
Viana for Portugal. Cunha's in there. Spanish player in there. In 2002. Oh, this is going to be someone who's signed maybe under Allardyce, isn't it?
Oh, what about David Rosenthal? He's got to be in there. Okay, that's going to test your spell. Look at that. United States, the centre back that signed on loan, perhaps.
If anybody in the comments can tell me how to spell ONAU.
Let's check the comments. We've got 12 and a half minutes here. Oh, look at this. Teoti Gavilan. Right, we'll give this a go, Derek. So, Gavilan, look at that. Teoti. Is he going to be the world? Oh, he's in yet. Ivory Coast.
Emery is going to be in there.
Oh, we're on a roll now. So, do you have Hammond? Come on. Right, there we go. Scotland must be
David Batty.
Gallagher. Netherlands, like a Dutch player.
Clive.
Shout. There we go.
Oh, perfect.
Right. Denmark. 1990. John Barnes.
Yeah.
Definitely
We're going to
one.
be missing a lot of England players, aren't we?
Because we're not thinking about them being.
Yeah.
So who else is in that 1990 squad? Beardsley, Waddle. No, which is Welsh.
No, I was thinking maybe Wales has qualified for a World Cup. That's what I was thinking.
No, because that first World Cup since 1958, wasn't it?
Uruguay.
Basadas? Is he?
Gonzalez.
Okay, that. 2006. Scott Parker, maybe?
That's a good shout, yeah.
Oh. Milner.
Yeah, might not be in a couple.
Ireland 1990. 1990 in Ireland. What about Aaron Hughes in 2002?
David Kelly, that's it.
Oh, that's a good shot. I don't know Aaron Hughes.
No Hughes.
Oh. Who was the captain on the Keegan? Let's go back to the comments. We'll see if there's any. Alan Smith, Yedlin. Oh, damn, Derek. Derek is running this year.
No Yedlin.
No, Yedlin. I thought that was a shot. Smith's not in, is he?
No Smith either.
Nope. Sorry, Derek. I was wrong. You're not running this.
Missing a lot of England. Sol Campbell being there.
That's a shot, right? So,
Johnson, Ronnie Johnson. That's a great shout. Great shout, Derek. By the way, in the comments here. So what we've got 2010 Nigeria, 2010 Cameroon.
Martins, 2010 maybe.
Great shout.
Cameroon. Happy bye.
Bassong. There we go.
Bye. B.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Senegal. My bad. Ireland. Ooh. Trying to think. Ireland. Damien Duff. It's got to be one, honey.
Yeah. 2002.
Damien Duff. Kieran Dyer. He's going to be in there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jermaine Genius.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on a roll, lads. Come on. Argentina. Gutierrez. Oh, can you spell it? Oh.
Oh, I think I've already got him in. If he's already played college, did he go to a World Cup? He did.
Oh, was that? Right. Okay. Denmark.
We need a couple of USA ones as well, if anybody can overfare me on Yewu. That's the spelling. Thank you very much.
Look at that. There we're going. Right. Switzerland is heading oh. I know it is, but I kind of think of it. Someone in the comments, come on. Someone knows who I mean, 94.
We're missing a lot of 1990 here. England, Scotland, Ireland. Still missing a lot of Senegal. Who knew Newcastle had so many Senegal players?
We tried Bomb, we tried Cisse.
Yeah. Viduka.
Australia.
Yes. Sweden 2002.
Andreas Anderson. Oh,
that is a fantastic shout.
2002 Nigeria. It's difficult because a lot of these were not playing for Newcastle when they were capped. There we go. Look at that. And Derek at that one as well.
Thomason.
That's a good shout. Look at that. Right, come on. We've got 16 to go.
Yep, 16 to go. We need Nigeria, so Senegal, Ireland 2002. That wasn't given Hughes or Duff. We're missing a lot of England as well. A lot of players that have played for England and Newcastle.
That's Scottish one as well. What about Barry Venison? Was he the 90 scored? No. Right back. They haven't got Beardsley in there. We haven't got Beardsley in there.
We'll have tapped.
He's not
in Beardsley.
He's definitely in the 1990 squad. Pierce.
That's a fantastic shout. Stuart Pierce. Yep.
Nigeria.
So we've got Obafemi Martin, so it can't be him.
Oh, Beardsley is in now. 1990. Oh. I'm trying to think.
Oh, 1998 Croatia. Who was Croatian that played for Newcastle? Czech, was it? No, he was Czech Republic, wasn't he? We still need Ireland 2002. Spain, yeah, that's
Spanish player. Are we going to look really stupid here?
I feel like we're going to be missing some obvious one. Boom songs in there somehow.
Get out. Boom songs in
Boom
there.
song in a World Cup. Who would have thought it?
England 2002. We've got Genius in there.
Genius is in there. Dyer's in there. Viduka,
Nicky Butt, Howie. Right,
Lee,
come on.
But
Must be,
yeah.
I wonder about Rob Lee.
is in there.
Is he?
And
Howie?
Not in
No.
there.
Do we have like a random keeper?
This Croatia one's throwing me. Still missed a lot of Nigeria. France 2006. Who could that
Robert? Was Robert maybe in
Robert,
it?
maybe. Oh, yeah.
No.
No.
There was striker Remy.
Do you know
Do you know?
that?
No. Remy?
Oh,
Too early
too
for him,
young,
isn't
isn't
it?
it? Solano ever get the World Cup? No.
True. Not named in there.
4 minutes left. We need 12 more.
We've got Islop. Oh man.
Spain 2002, such a tricky one, isn't it? Who on earth was Spanish that played at a World Cup? Any more help from the comments would be massively appreciated here.
Yeah, if you got any help in the comments, drop them in. If you're listening later on the podcast channel, we do appreciate. We do apologise rather for the moans and groans, and there's some terrible answers being thrown in here by us. Oh, I mean, that's going to knock work. Right, let's think 1990. 1990. It's going to have to be goalkeeper. No. Andy Cole? I don't know. I think I'm a bit early for him though.
Yeah, no Andy Cole.
He didn't play the World Cup.
France 2006.
Oh. It's that 2002 Allan one that's getting us.
Kieran Kelly would be happy if he was here, would he?
He'd know. Right, do you know we had the rest of the team, Sean McCormick.
Yeah.
He's very good at this and he loves the World Cup as well.
France 06 is the one that's on my mind.
Alright.
Oh, it's going to be the Croat. Yeah.
Look at that.
Perfect.
Right. Come on, Nigeria.
Andy Fair. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Senegal 2002.
At the same time. So we're there. Who else did the sign?
We need to think of these Allardyce signings, don't we? The Fair, the Rosnals, the Boom Songs. They all managed to get to a World Cup somehow.
Jeremy Barr.
Yeah.
Do we have striker of some sort? Oh.
Viana, we've got Hugo Viana. So we're missing 10. We need 2002 Ireland, 2002 Nigeria, 2002 Spain, 1998 Nigeria, 1990 for England, Ireland, and Scotland.
10 to go.
And 2006 France.
Any more comments?
There's going to be some people listening later screaming.
O'Brien, that's a shout.
That is a fantastic shout. Andy O'Brien, 2002, perfect. Senegal, Nigeria, Spain in 2002. These are gonna haunt us tonight.
Oh, no, I was going to say Tim Krul, but it's too early.
I feel like there was a player similar to Andy Faye.
Did we get that Holland one?
Yeah, it was Patrick Clive.
Oh, it was the Scottish one, 1990.
Stephen Carr.
Stephen Carr.
No. I thought that was a shoe-in.
Where? Will Fox 1990 maybe? No.
Batty, Beardsley, Waddle, Barnes, Gascoigne. Turi Fushima. Ferdinand?
Oh,
That's
1998. Was that the
98.
guy who was part of that? Oh, come on, 40 seconds. Come on, guys, in the comments.
Marmite fullback.
David Besson.
David Besson is a good shout. Yes,
Yes.
1990.
There was one more below. Mark.
No.
Oh, Mick Martin would be a good shout.
Marmite fullbacks. Oh, Stephen Carey's on about.
Oh,
I'm going to be honest. 66 out of 73. Very, very valiant effort here.
I feel like that 2006 France one, they were missing a big
Yeah.
name there, surely.
There's going to be a lot of people listening to this later really, really shouting at their phones with answers that we should have got. Here we go. So,
What's going on here? We've got an advert.
the answers that we're missing are...
Oh, Lamine Diatta. I mean, we've never got Albert Luque. How do we get rid of this? It's going to...
Sorry, we've got an advert here that we can't get rid of.
Look at that. Bobby Horo.
So, we missed Kevin Sheedy, Roy Atkin in 1990. We missed Babiaro in 98 and 2002. We missed Lamine Diatta in 2002. And we also missed Louis Saha, France 06. I think that is a very, very valiant effort. And thank you very much, everybody in the comments who plugged away there.
Yeah, thank you, guys. How did we get? I know Townsend, to kind of phrase, far too early for Townsend. But thank you for everyone who joined in there. I don't know. I'm a little bit frustrated.
Babiaro was a big one. Saha.
Do you know that was more difficult because a lot of them caps were not earned as Newcastle United players.
Yeah, the majority of them probably weren't, to be fair, which made it a bit harder. But yeah, I think that's a good effort.
Frustrating.
You're not happy.
But thank you very much for everyone who joined in live there. Cheers to Derek, to kind of phrase, and everyone else that offered some answers up, and to you guys listening later on the podcast. I hope we did all right. You know, we did all right. Well, Aaron thinks we did. I'm just frustrated that we didn't get the full whack, but we tried, and maybe we'll do one of these in the new year as well, and keep the fun going.
Maybe I'm Steve Bruce standards low, you're Eddie Howe standards too high. Maybe that's what.
Well, it's not a bad platform to start.
Exactly.
And well, how many did we lose there? 6, was it? 7.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad start. Next month we'll aim for. We'll aim to leave only about 5, and we'll we'll aim to get all of them, because that is the standards we set here at the Everything is Black and White podcast. All that is left to do before we wish you guys a Merry Christmas is your score prediction for Boxing Day.
I think I'm going to go with 2-1 Newcastle, and I think we'll see Wilson and Migium on the goals.
Hello, take that. Yeah, I'm going to go. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go draw. I'm sorry. I know it's Christmas and I should be feeling happy and festive, but I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and I think they'll beat Leeds.
You just set the bar so high with that game, and then you're bringing the tone right.
So it's a realistic prediction. I think 4 points, right? 4 points from the next 6. I think you take that. It keeps you well in the mix.
Yeah.
It leaves you positive going into that game against Arsenal. So yeah, I'm going to say a point against Leicester. I think a win against Leeds. But yeah, I think it'll be a positive festive. We just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and say thank you very much for tuning in to the podcast throughout 2022. We'll have a few more podcasts before the air is out, but this will be the final one in our. Can we call it a studio? It's a studio in works.
A makeshift studio.
It's a studio in works, and hopefully starting the new year we'll have a bit more about it. Maybe not a webcam, this funny angle. But yeah, we want to wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for all your comments, all your interactions. Thank you for guys who are coming along to the live events. We love doing them in person. We can't wait for the next one. Thank you for reading all the content on the website. You know, it's been a fantastic year for the podcast. You know, we've about hit 1.3 million downloads in 2022, which we're overjoyed with, aren't we? Like that's fantastic. You guys spend the time watching and listening to us, especially Aaron, because he doesn't know that much. But we just want to, Merry Christmas, have a great New Year, stay safe out there, guys, and head over to chroniclelive.co.uk to keep up to date with all the latest Newcastle United news, and just have a brilliant festive time.